Welcome back to Extreme Voltage. My name is D. Melkonian, and we're going to be discussing everything LA Chargers. We are going to discuss the draft that happened back in April and give you a nice little synopsis on how that looked. We're going to go right into our training camp information. This is day 8 of training camp here on August the 5th, 2022. We're going to discuss the last week of full training camp and try to break down positional issues and start doing a real good construction on our roster. We're going to obviously finish up with our free agency. We had such a great splash. We talked about last podcast with J.C. Jackson and the defensive tackles that came in. So amazing type of information coming at you. We're going to break it all down. We're actually going to go back and do a quick draft synopsis for the 2018 Chargers draft class and see how that fared out. I'll give you my grade. Obviously you can't give a grade right after a draft like some places do. But we like to give it to you 4 years after and let you know what that grade was. So we'll discuss that a little bit. Obviously, we got a lot of information to go through today. I'm really hopeful you guys are staying with us and discussing it. Let's go back to the draft, April 2022, just a few months ago, and let's break down this Chargers draft class. So Tom Telesco came in looking for offensive line help, and he found it. He went number 17 overall with Zion Johnson, offensive guard, Boston College, and he is going to be your starting right guard. And so far at camp, 7 days in, holding his own, looking strong. I know Corey Lindsey recently explained what a great player looks like right now, what kind of work ethic and the way he works. He really likes a lot of what he's seeing with Zion Johnson, just solidifying hopefully that right guard spot. So good pick overall from Boston College. He was the top two guards coming out, and the Chargers were able to grab him. So good job on that. Let's see how that flourishes throughout the season here and onward. No number 2 nothing the number 2 round because that was taken for Mack from Chicago, so that was a trade compensation. Went to the 3rd round, of course, and grabbed J.T. Woods, safety out of Baylor. This guy can fly. And it's been fun watching some of the highlights on him. Again, relatively new in the package right now with the Chargers. I don't see an immediate type of help at this time. But hey, you never know what's going to happen as we go on. I know we have the Derwin James hold-in saga going on right now, which I'm very positive on the fact that they're going to secure a contract worth about $80 million here for Derwin coming up the next few days, hopefully before this thing rolls out. I know they wanted to take care of it before training camp started, but obviously we got a little hold-in situation going on, and hopefully everything gets rectified and they're good to go. But J.T. Woods is now part of the defensive secondary, so it's great to add these skilled players on. I think his coverage skills are going to be strong. I think that just the speed factor itself out in the backfield is going to be a nice situation to get from. So good pick in the 3rd round, hopefully. Going around from number 4, this is where Tom Telesco and his scouts looked at it and said, okay, we got to get a running back for Ekeler. Not to say Joshua Kelly is not the answer, not to say that Larry Roundtree is not the answer, but they didn't see enough last year. And I think, definitely with this pick, they were looking at adding another young running back in the mix that can hopefully spell Austin and give him that type of performance and the explosion we need in the backfield, because it can't be an Austin Ekeler show every week. He just cannot hold up. Really, quite honestly, with a few exceptions on running backs carrying 25, 30 times a game, Jonathan Taylor, the big king in Tennessee, you got certain guys that will do it. It's not going to be fruitful for you. You're really going to beat your backs big time, and especially the size of Austin. He's not a big back. He's a very explosive back that's going to give you a lot of receptions out of the backfield and some nice runs. You don't want to beat this guy up 25 times a game, right, for 17 weeks and plus the playoffs, hopefully. It's just not going to work well for you. So Isaiah Spiller, running back, Texas A&M. This was a kid that's coming out, this young man, and a lot of places were scouting him as one of the top running backs. And I'm really excited to see how he's going to perform in the preseason. Right now, showing some nice splashes in training camp, what I've been reading and seeing on video. Nice work coming out, usually the second team right now, which rightfully so. But I think as we get deeper into training camp in the preseason, I want to see how he flourishes. I think he's going to be a kind of back that can really take on a heavy role, and that's going to be nice. Hey, look, Joshua Kelly, reports coming out of that about his performance as well in the current training camp has been very positive as well. So we'll discuss that here a little bit. But yeah, really good stable of backs coming up, and I think Isaiah provides that. Fifth round, the Chargers went to UCLA once again and grabbed Otito Ogbonya. He's the defensive tackle from your UCLA Bruins, and he is looking at being a rotational piece in the Chargers front line. He's 6'4", about 325 pounds, good, solid defensive tackle that's going to hopefully produce. Round number 6, 195th overall, Jamari Salyer, offensive guard from Georgia. Jamari actually was rated higher in a lot of places. A lot of scouts were a little higher than round 6 for him. He was more of maybe a 2 to 4 round selection, and he did slip out this way. Big boy, and he actually has been looking pretty decent in camp, which rightfully so. They do have expectations for him. So he's coming in. He's a big player, and he's going to be able to hold up and be one of the rotational pieces for this offensive line, and that's great. They'll need that, especially the fact they lost Scott Quisenberry recently. They need that guard depth. So I think that's going to be a good selection for them. And again, if it doesn't happen this year, second and third year, you're looking at a nice depth rotational piece on there. Round 6, Ja'Sir Taylor, cornerback, Wake Forest, another speedster that they picked up. And I got to tell you, Ja'Sir has been really showing out at the mini camps earlier and obviously in training camp now. Another foundational piece as a depth piece, which, frankly, the Chargers needed that. We've discussed it on the show a number of times. That secondary depth was weak last couple of years, right? We've seen it with the injury bugs that was hitting them. You have to have the depth, right, in every team, but you have to have the depth in that secondary to compete. Otherwise, you're not going to make it in the second half, which that occurred to us, losing all those games in the latter part of in December, and that was a big effect of a lot of secondary injuries. So Ja'Sir Taylor comes in, hopefully being part of the staff there as well. He's got a really good shot to make this team. Round 7, Dean Leonard, also turning heads here at camp. Doing really well. He gets picked up from Ole Miss as a corner, so he's part of the secondary staff as well. Looking forward to see how he goes. He's a big guy too. He's about 6 foot, 195 pounds. So he's a bigger corner out there as well, which the Chargers do like. Lastly, round 7, this is Xander Horvath, from a fullback from Purdue. And I don't take this lightly. I think this is actually a really strong pick. I haven't been able to see any video or read much about his play yet. I don't think we've seen much with him yet. But I think he potentially can be one of those running backs at 6'3", 230 pounds that really can play. Not just being a fullback, but coming out of that backfield, he's got soft hands. He can catch the pass coming out. He can definitely put his nose down there and make some nice blocks for you as a sixth piece of that line. And I can see him making that. We need a short yardage. I thought Larry Roundtree was going to be our short yardage back and really breaking it. I don't like to see Austin Eckler on 4th and 1 and on 4th and 2. I like to see a big back come in. And, even if you give a play action to him, that's fine too. But I want the big back in there getting a tough yard or 2 yards. You need that. And I think Xander can provide that, and I'm just kind of curious to see if he's going to show up and provide that capability in this league and take it from what he had in Purdue and to bring it down to the NFL. So in his career, he's carried the ball only 91 times for just over 335 yards and 3 touchdowns. So very seldom used, quite honestly. He had a fibula injury in Purdue as well in his senior year last year, and that kind of hurt him, missing some games. But I think there's a really good pickup later in the rounds. And again, 7th round lottery pick, man. Let's see how that one goes. If that's the case, you got a strong fullback in your hands. So nice piece of drafting. I'm not going to give you my draft grade. Looking at it, I like it a lot. You answered potentially some issues with your line. You needed desperately another guard in there. You got him with Zion. Potentially, next 10 years, he's locking up your guard spot, hopefully. So you're good to go on that end. I like the JT Woods safety added depth. I think that's a good signage. Hopefully he'll, again, give this kid about a year, 2 years, and see how well he's going to perform on there, right? Round 4, Isaiah, like I said, this is crucial. Running back room needs to get those pieces, and you have potential top 5 running back that came in from the draft class. So great pickup there. Otito from UCLA, which we talked about. I think you always need defensive line rotational depth. I think this could be a good piece for them inside. And Jamari Salyer, we'll see. This kid was rated higher. Let's see if he's going to pick up the pieces and provide you with that additional piece on the offensive line. Jasir Taylor and Dean Leonard, just more pieces in the secondary, which we talked about earlier. So, and again, the addition of Xander, which we just discussed, I think just wraps up a really strong, potentially a strong draft. So really excited to see those young kids, and let's see how they perform next couple years. At this time, I want to discuss our 2018 draft class, and we are going to give this one a grade. We had a good 4 years of it, and we're going to see how this panned out. So let me refresh your memories here for the 2018 class. Tom Telesco came back in his first pick. I think you remember this kid. His name is Derwin James, Florida State safety. So Derwin, which we talked about right now, is in that weird situation, awkward situation where he's holding in, right? Which I'm glad he's in. I'm glad he's at the camp doing his thing, but he's waiting for his contract, right? And this is key. They got to get him signed. I would imagine by next weekend, by game 1, latest game 2 of preseason, this has to get done. Derwin has to be in there. So with that, let's give that draft grade as an easy A. Derwin just has come in. Look, granted, the couple of years of injuries, which people can argue has hurt him as a draft pick, right, or as a player. That is maybe potentially one of the stumbling blocks on this new contract, and you've got to take a look at it as that, because it is an important piece. The Chargers need the protection as well, because if he goes down again, God forbid, for another year, a major injury again, or it has happened. So he does have the injury bug in his DNA for the last couple of years. So I think that's one of the pieces that they might be fearful about. Maybe there's language in the contract where I'm just assuming there could be some concerns where they're not. The Chargers, meaning, or that's the only maybe pivoting issue on what contract numbers and guarantees they're giving, correct? Now it's all about guarantee numbers. So that could be a potential problem on there. That's the only negative, I would say, on Derwin. If you look at it unbiasedly on what the issues are, I think the only negative on Derwin, the talent is amazing. His ball skills, his FBI skills, his team skills, chemistry with the guys and coaches. He really is like another coach out there too. It's such a young guy, and he plays with such ferocity. I think the only problem is that injury issue, right? And luckily he had a strong year last year, didn't come up, but that's one of the issues we had. But so far, Derwin James, just rock and roll. He's going to be the highest paid safety in this league. Round 2, picks number 16, number 48 overall was Uchenna Nwosu, linebacker, USC, and he performed quite admirably, right? After Melvin Ingram left, he had the starting spot as a DN next to Bosa, and Uchenna did a great job. And unfortunately, we're really upset. I thought a lot of the fans wanted to keep him this year and have him re-sign. Unfortunately, Seattle swooped up and got him on a 2-year, $20 million contract. That's a starting linebacker. That's starting linebacker money. That means he's playing. Uchenna has had a great career so far, and he's going to, I think, the next few years, he's been even greater. I thought last year, the 2021 season, had such a strong performance with the Chargers. I think he made a huge impact. And I was hoping he would get it re-signed. The numbers look pretty good, 2 years, 20. I wish they, Chargers would have done it, but I get it. There's cost issues, and, they want to replenish that secondary, so I get that as well. But Uchenna, great job. I would say that's an A pick right there as well. Round 3, Justin Jones, defensive end, North Carolina State. He was picked number 84th overall. Justin Jones, heart and soul of that defensive line. Our best defensive linemen, especially against the run. The Chargers had such a terrible year controlling that run. And really the only time that we had great run protection was when Justin was in. And he had a lot of injuries as well last couple of years, right, in and out of the lineup. That hurt him a little bit. He went on ahead with free agency, and he signed with the Chicago Bears, 2 years, $12 million. So that's a big piece for them there as well. That's going to be a starting positional money that's going in for him, invested in him. So I would see him as a starter there in Chicago, and I'm sure he's going to do a really good job there as well. And that was a great pick by Tom Telesco in the 3rd round. 4th round, number 119 overall, went to Kazir White, at the time, safety out of West Virginia, but of course he went out to that outside linebacker position, and he played it really well. Kazir had a number of injuries coming out the first few years. He was very limited. I remember it was getting a little frustrating not seeing him out there as much, but you saw the last 2 years and what a great job he's done. Really athletic linebacker. Just, again, very hybrid position for him with safety linebacker. You see the traits because he's such a great cover linebacker, right? Really is an interchangeable piece there between safety and linebacker. So I like Kazir a lot. I know a lot of guys want him to stay. Very easy contract. Well, he got signed with the Eagles for 1 year, $3 million. I wish that was something we would spend on because I thought Kazir would have been a great piece to add on there. He would have been a starting backer here. And unfortunately, he did go to the Eagles. I think that's a great pickup for them. 1 year, $3 million. I think that was a heck of a pick for Kazir White. Nice work. Round 5, Scott Quisenberry, UCLA center. Scott played both center and guard. He did a great job being the second string, coming in for great depth. Again, love to have kept him. He signed with the Texans for 1 year, just under $1.2 million. So great work on that in round 5. Round 6, this kid, Dylan Cantrell, when he came out, I was really excited about him. Wide receiver out of Texas Tech. Big guy. And he ran very smoothly. Really, I thought he had a great future coming up. And he got those injury issues in training camp. And I think for back-to-back years, he really had problems with it, unfortunately. And based on that, I think he's out of football now. But at one point, they were thinking about maybe going to tight end with him. He was such a big size on him, and yet can run so well and has soft hands. So unfortunately, that didn't pan out in round 6, but that was one of the guys I really thought had a shot in the league. And finally, round 7, you guys know him, Justin Jackson, running back out of Northwestern. Hey, look, Justin Jackson, round 7, man, that is a great pickup. His injury bug just hurt him, right? You could never get him completely healthy throughout the year. Last year, you saw a lot of it. He had some big runs. He had that one long touchdown run middle of the year. He is just a strong runner. I love the way he plays football. But yes, he gets banged up a lot. And that's his issue. A lot of soft tissue injuries and so forth. That's really kept him off. He did sign with the Detroit Lions on a 1 year, I believe like a $1 million, just a little over $1 million contract. So that's a good pickup for Detroit to have Justin Jackson in that running back room. And I'm sure he's going to get some good touches along the way in that position. So looking back with these picks, Derwin James obviously leads as the best safety in the league with that number 1 pick. Coming back to round 2 with Nwasu from USC, just a great selection, backing up Melvin Ingram and in latter years starting for him and doing such a good job. Justin Jones, just a defensive line run clogger, did a great job there. Kazir White, Scott Quisenberry, and of course Justin Jackson. Bringing it all together, this was a legit A draft. And I'll give you some numbers just to back it up. Not including Derwin James, just taking Nwasu, Justin Jones, Kazir White, Quisenberry, and Jackson, just taking those contracts right now, those 5 players have $37 million in contracts that they've signed. So, and they're going to be either starters or quality backups. Again, Nwasu, Justin Jones, and Kazir are your starting linebackers most probably, and with Quisenberry and Jackson as backups. So great work there. I'm going to give that an A+, if not an A+. That was great work by Telesco, and that's I have to break it down, man. It's always a 4-year process. Just out of curiosity, let me give you what Sports Illustrated gave back in April 26th of 2018. They gave this class a B+ grade. So pretty close with their grading for overall on that one. So that worked out pretty good. The 2022 Chargers team construction is this is possibly one of the best rosters I have seen for the Chargers in quite some time. I'm talking offense, defense, special teams. This is one of the not just impact players, because you have them, right? Justin Herbert is not just an impact player. He is a megastar in the league, right? He's a top 3, top 4, top 5 quarterback at the least in this league. You've got Austin Eckler, who's a top running back, impact back. You've got Keenan Allen, right, and Mike Williams. these two are household names. Keenan Allen is just amazing, right? Mike is just that impactful guy. So those two coming at you, that's a lot of star-studded power right there on offense. So that's nice to see. The tight ends, I really think, has been an upgrade. The Gerald Everett pickup, I don't think we talked about it last time at the podcast. I love Gerald Everett. And if you go back to some of the old podcasts last year where I was talking about free agency pickups, Gerald Everett was the kid I wanted from the Rams last year. And of course, Seattle snaked him away from us. But I really thought that would have been a great pickup last year. This is an upgrade. You've got Everett with Parham. And again, Everett can do everything. He's a receiving tight end as well, just like Donald Parham is. Trey McKitty is going to be the draft pack we had last year, and he's a stud. He is a banger. He'll be an inline tight end, and he'll be there banging away for those runs. I loved seeing him in his very limited opportunities last year. I was really curious to see how he's going to perform. I think he's going to, and he had some injury issues coming in last year, it looks like. That's why we saw so much limited activity with him. But I think we're going to see some good stuff, especially on 12 personnel with two tight ends. I think we'll see some exceptional play. I would imagine McKitty will be involved in a lot of those packages. That way either Everett or Parham is going out, you got McKitty staying in, or vice versa. If they give some action on Everett or Parham, then McKitty can escape out and get one of the lesser defenders trailing him, and he can do some damage with his soft hands as well and his ferocious bull-style running. So good stuff there. So offensively, I just named you a few impact players on that team. On the defensive side, it starts with Bosa and Derwin James, right? Huge names. Again, Derwin, best safety in the league, coming back healthy and fresh. You got Bosa, who boasts a 85.8 PFF Pro Football focus grade, 85.8, one of the highest on that spot, 9th out of all defensive ends. Now you've got Mr. Khalil Mack that joins him on the other side. Again, 73 grade overall, had a limited playing last year based on injury, but just is going to be an exceptional bookend defensive end. Just watching some of the video coming out of camp and seeing it, man, he's just bull rushing everybody. He's just doing a great job with his speed and ferociousness. And I remember one play I was watching against Slater. Slater literally was just on roller skates going all the way back, and he did mention to the reporters that he saw some moves coming out of Mac that he's never ever seen before, and I love it. It's great that he gets pushed like this, talking about Slater in camp now, because with the amount of defensive ends, quality defensive ends we're going to be seeing in the AFC West. This is a great tandem to practice up against. And obviously, number ones don't go against number ones every day, but there are times where number one offense goes up against the number one defense, even if it's individual competition. And I tell you, these guys are only going to get better. I'm going to switch sides as well and tell you about Norton and I'm talking about Storm Norton and Trey Pipkins. Those guys that are playing the right tackle spot, which, looking at it as possibly our weaker spots, playing against Bosa and Mac on a daily basis, that's going to be something exceptional for them to, either pick it up and play at that high rate, or you're going to get passed by and somebody else is going to get your job. So let's see how that works out for them. But again, going back to our impact defensive players, we talked about the offense earlier. We talked about Bosa and Derwin James. We talked about Mac coming in, J.C. Jackson, right? One of the best, if not one of the best corners in the league, potentially the best corner. He was number 7 last year out of 116 corners. PFF gave him a grade of 78.9, and he is just rocking and rolling in camp. He's bringing all that and showing off what made him a top free agent. So excited to see it. These are the names, and this on paper, it looks great, right? And now we're putting it together. Obviously there's so many things that come with it, the injury issues, right? We're trying to avoid, knock on wood, as we go. But let's go through the construction process and see how that works. Let's start with the Chargers defense. Again, Bosa and Mac on the outsides, looking strong. They did add a few defensive tackles, which I want to talk about. Fox came in, Morgan Fox out of Carolina, and he is a strong player. Pass rush grade of 62.9, run defense grade of 44.8, overall 68.6 from PFF. So he's going to be a nice player to come in. We also have Sebastian Joseph Day from the Rams. That was a nice pickup for them as well. And he gives you a 57.8 pass rush grade, a 65 run defense grade. And I think that was one of the bigger pickups they won. Look, Brandon Staley needed a defensive line makeover completely. And these guys they brought in is just that. they need a defensive line that can stop the run. And that's basically what it is. They need run stoppers. Austin Johnson, that came in as well. That's another huge run stopper, right? And again, he's got a 53.9 run defense grade and a pass rush grade of 63. But again, you're looking at the run stoppage. I think they're confident with their linebackers and their secondary for the pass defense, but in regards to how they're going to protect and how they're going to cover. But I think having that run stoppage, that kills you. It's one thing you get passed on, you get first downs because of certain pass plays work against you. But in regards to runs, this is what you saw last year in certain games. And the ugliest game, which was one of the better games to watch, of course, and it was fun as heck to watch, was that last Raider game. That run defense was completely exposed. And we can go back in that fourth down call and all that fun stuff we want to talk about, or didn't take a timeout with Brandon Staley and when the Raiders were running. It doesn't matter at this point. The biggest thing is if the Chargers made the stops against the Raiders with their run defense, they let some runs break. You guys, if you want to go back and check out the video, do so, and you'll see how we failed on that run issue. And I think that's the biggest key. If you stop the other person's running attack, they become one-dimensional. Right? They're limited. And now you have the exposure, and now you can bring in your defensive ends and your tackles and start doing some stunts and kind of really putting the pressure on that quarterback. And now your linebackers and your secondary can change up as well. And now they're playing a lot more aggressive because now you're forced and you're showing your hand. It's when that run game is working. And look, you've seen it with the Chargers, man. When Austin Eckler and that running game is working fluidly, Herbert's going to have a lot more opportunity to do some damage, right? And sometimes the passing game opens up more running lanes for you. I get that as well, but that running issue is big. That's why that Zion Johnson draft is so huge right now. That's why Lindsley and Fowler are so huge right now on that offensive line, because they're not just pass blockers, but they are strong run linemen, and that's going to be a key factor. Obviously you want to keep your quarterback healthy and upright, but you got to open up running lanes. So going back, offensively, defensively, on paper, this looks fantastic. And I think they've got a really, really good shot to compete and really be tops in the AFC West and potentially further down the line. I'm going to break down some positions with you and go from there and give you a nice little starting lineup of the way I think the roster is going to look like. And we'll finish it up with that. Offensive line, I like what they got going on. This is a really upgraded line, especially looking at it from 2 years ago. Second-year player, Slater, is on your left tackle. You got Fowler on your left guard with Big Matt. He's handling that for you in the second year of the Chargers. Lindsley is handling your center, and he's the number 2 center on PFF since last year. And Zion Johnson, your brand new draft pick, fresh from Penn State. He'll be taking care of your right guard spot. And this is the key, the right tackle, right? I still think for some reason Trey Pipkins will take over the spot this year. I liked what he did last year. I think it was against the Kansas City Chiefs game, the second game, where he was playing the left side, right, when I think Slater was out. And I thought he did such a great job. And even some other games after that when he was coming in, I thought he was really holding his own. And it's his 4th year. And this is going to be a make or break year for him as a Charger, right, because he's only here for 4 years. They're not going to renew him unless they see some huge improvement. And I thought we saw that last year. So we'll see. That camp battle is going to be interesting between Storm and Trey. So we'll see how that kind of works out at the end. I'm going to go ahead and say it's Trey Pipkins for now, but let's figure it out. Tight end spot, I think Gerald Everett, we discussed earlier, I think is a huge upgrade. Even though he was only 35th last year out of 70 tight ends, I think he's going to get a lot more opportunity with Justin. I think the way that Justin distributes this ball, I think he likes tight ends. I think Everett's going to have a really good shot of getting a good connection with Justin. So Gerald Everett, I think, is a huge upgrade, and I'm looking at really positive things with him. Of course, Donald Parham and Trey McKitty, which we just talked about earlier. I think it's a quality tight end room. Receiver-wise, of course, Keenan Allen, just what can you say about him? 24th last year, about 115 receivers. That's 77.5 PFF grade. And then, look at it, Mike Williams with a 77.6 grade. He's number 23 out of 115. So they were the 23rd and 24th highest-rated receivers last year on this NFL slotted positions. And then, of course, our big step forward will be Josh Palmer, the draft pick from last year, who will be manning the other side where Williams is. Williams usually will line up as an X on one side. Palmer will usually line up on the other side with a slot. So I think he's very similar body style to Williams as well. Very lengthy, great hands, and I think I think a lot more opportunity is going to come this way with him this year, and I think it's going to be fun to watch. Jalen Guyton, he's a speedster on this team, as you know, and I think using him as that X factor, I think is great. I think as a fourth receiver coming in, or even splitting time with Palmer, I think that's fantastic. I think he brings that extra dimension that he really truly is the speed in the offensive realm. So that's gonna be fun to watch with Jalen Guyton. I think he's a great player. And let's not forget, there's a few other receivers that have been really showing up at camp this year. One of which is the free agent pickup that they got with DeAndre Carter, who they picked up as their punt return and kickoff return man. And DeAndre Carter played for the Washington football team at the time last year, and I think he's been really showing up and showing, I think with second team that he's been playing with, second or third team, just how great of a receiver he can be as well. And I know Brandon Staley had made a comment about it. So that's going to be fun to see how he lines up. But he'll definitely be in the package as well as a number 4, number 5 in that receiving group. And that's what I'm looking at. And they've got some really good receivers. They've still got Michael Bandy out of University of San Diego, who's a slot receiver, and he's showing up really well. They have Maurice French, which, he's turning heads as well. He had a scary hit a couple days ago. Nasir Adderley had a helmet-to-helmet potentially with him, but he's doing fine, but he was really showing up as well. Jason Moore, he's been on this team a number of times as practice squad member and active roster member. Again, he's been a fun receiver to watch as well. So they've got a lot to work with. And let's not forget Joe Reed. Joe Reed was our draft pick, I think a 5th-round draft pick back in the day. And 6'1", 215, he's still on that whole thing as well, and he's part of it, and he's still trying to make the team. If not, he'll go practice squad. But yeah, he was highly looked upon a couple of years ago. Many people were looking at him, draft scouts coming in, as a Debo Samuel. So they were saying very similar type of style with the body and the plays that he does, potentially running with the ball from the backfield. I think once or twice they even showed that with Joe Reed coming out of the backfield. So it'll be interesting to see if he makes that top 5 or 6. If they end up keeping 6 receivers, then I think Joe Reed is part of the package along with DeAndre Carter. We discussed the running backs, but I'll bring it up just quickly again. Of course, it's Austin Eckler. I think number 2 is Isaiah Spiller. I think he gets all the carries in the second portion. I think Kelly comes in pretty strong this year as well, and I think you'll see him jump in there. And lastly, I'll go with Larry Roundtree. Unless there's a big change in some issues or an injury issue that comes up, or somebody really takes the reins, as the second guy, I really think that's the way it's going to kind of roll up on that side. And that's a nice tandem of backs to have, and I would imagine having 3 suited up for each game would be the way to go, especially if you had your fullback in there, which I think Xander will take care of that fullback spot. I think he's going to win it, and I think he's going to do a good job as that fullback and special teamer on that end. Defensively, looking at the squad, obviously you've got James and Adderley as your safeties. You're going to have Asante Samuel and J.C. Jackson on the outside, and Bryce Callahan, which they picked up from Denver. Strong pickup, and I think this is going to be really huge for them. He'll play the slot, and he's got a pass rush grade of 72.1, so he can blitz you and come out and get you. He's also got a really nice coverage grade of 67.9, and his only lacking area is run defense grade of 28.3. At that point, I'm not too concerned. I think you're putting that slot corner there for a reason. He's going to cover the slot, and that's his MO. And I think at 5'9", 190, Bryce Callahan has a lot of work he can do. He was injured last few years, just bounced back with that. So I think it's good to see how he's going to rebound. His best year was in 2020. He was 3rd on PFF with 84.1 in 2020. And I think 2019 was the injury year for him. Last year was 75th out of 116, also limited with some injuries. So I want to see how he bounces back. They're hopeful for him, and he's still young enough that he should do really well with that one. He just drafted in 2015, so he's only got about 7 years in the books. So looking forward to see how that pans out. Mike Davis, your starter last year, is going to be the fifth corner at that point, right? Well, correction, the fourth corner coming out at that point. So he can play both, most probably outside. I think the young kids with Jasir Taylor and Dean Leonard, I think, have a really good shot to make this team the way they're playing back there. So that looks strong as well. JT Woods, round 3, he's going to be a lock to make this team. And just recently, there's been a lot of talk of Mark Webb just playing really well at training camp. I think he's coming in strong. He was injured last year with that knee issue. I think Mark Webb, another great safety, interchangeable safety I can play back there, along with Nasir, and also Alohi Gilman. We're forgetting to mention him, but he's been strong with the Chargers. So I tell you, they've really been adding up a lot of pieces in that secondary, and that's looking really strong for them. So that's your composition in a nutshell, what this looks like. Hey, look, we have a preseason game coming up shortly. Next week, it's going to be the Chargers and the Rams in the preseason at beautiful SoFi Stadium. Really, really fun to watch. I'm curious to watch some of these young kids really, playing well. I don't expect to see Herbert there. I hope they don't do anything with him. I don't expect Austin Eckler to be there. I don't expect Keenan Allen or Mike Williams to suit up. There's no need. I don't want to see J.C. Jackson. I don't want to see any of these kids young kids playing. I want to see all the youngsters. I want to see all the second stringers playing and having a good time. And let's see what they look like. Hey, this is the battle testing position that's got to happen, right? The depth chart continues, and like we said, just to recap it, this is one of the best off seasons I've seen the Chargers spend money on and get quality guys. You can always spend money and get guys that are okay, but this is like legit players they grabbed. The Khalil Mack trade was really substantial as well. Bringing that together along with a nice free agency class and a draft class, I should say, that's been really huge, and I really want to see how that's gonna pan out. We'll catch up with you guys. We'll discuss it after our first preseason game against the Rams next week. As always, you can always catch us on Instagram at Extreme Voltage _podcast. My name is D. Melkonian. Before we leave you, I want to give some acknowledgement to some folks out there. First of all, my producer, the man himself, Tyrell Mad Dog Wiggins, taking care of us as he does all the time. Want to thank Kevin McLeod from philmusic.io for strengthening the Titans and the Ice Giants. Appreciate the music. Otherwise, we shall see you after the Rams game. You guys take care. Catch you on the next one.